Welcome to Tweener Madness, the high-stakes startup showdown where 8 promising companies go head-to-head for a $25,000 investment prize from the NC Tweener Fund. Each episode, founders from 2 companies will step up and pitch their vision to our selection committee. They'll face tough questions, defend their business, and make their case. Then, after both have had their shot, the selection committee will decide who moves on and who's heading home. This is the Exceptional 8, where only the sharpest startups survive. Now, here's your host, general partner of the NC Tweener Fund, Scott Wingo.
Welcome back to North Carolina Tweener Madness. We are now going into round 2 of our Exceptional 8. In this round, we have Iguana Cyber, which is a cybersecurity company, and they're competing against HAM, HAM, which stands for Hierarchical Agent Memory. They are a Gen AI structured memory and context management system. I'll put them in a category that we call AI tech. You can learn more about them at goham.dev. Let's take a look at Iguana Cyber. Roll the video.
Hi, I'm Parker Garrison with Iguana Cyber. We block AI-generated exploits that all existing products are blind to. We just raised our 7th safe yesterday for $75K. All other AI cybersecurity products have a blind spot to threats that they haven't seen. This is because every other strategy is based off of categorizing threats into Pat's good or Pat's bad. Other products have been trying to block threats that they haven't seen before, but so far they've been failing. And as a result, this has cost businesses over $10 trillion last year by exploitation of vulnerabilities. That's almost 10% of the world GDP. We block most of the high-impact recent security issues that all other products have missed before a patch becomes available. And that means all of those big fancy ones with the logos as well. Spectre and Meltdown, the variants of which are still haunting major organizations today, Heartbleed, and other availability issues such as the CrowdStrike data breach. So far, we've got significant traction. Back in April of this year, we were able to address the technical risk by running our MVP against hackers at the RSA Conference Advanced CTF. After I won the conference contest the past 3 years, they asked me to design and run one this year. This also served as a test bed to show the Iguana instance could stay up and running against attackers. And although the unprotected instances were completely owned by the attackers, ours stayed up. Back in September of last year, we got an external beta tester, and we started pitching at major events. We just got our 7th investor. We're in discussion with MSSPs collectively serving 10,000 customers. One of our advisors who just invested last Friday, Chris Gillum, has connections to dozens of MSSPs that all filter up to the top 3 resellers. And we expect to start converting our beta testers to paying customers in May of this year. So what do we do differently? Instead of just trying to detect a threat with more information than other companies have had, we set up 2 different servers on the back end. We duplicate their existing server, send the request to both web servers, and only allow any data out if it matches up 100%. So in that case, we don't need any knowledge of the threat, just whether the 2 responses match up. The exploit has to be coded for either Windows or Linux, and it results in something meaningless on the other operating system, and thus the 2 responses don't match up when an exploit is attempted against one of the backends. We're in a large and growing target market, CAGRs of over 20%. Other products can block known malware files, and the current generation of products is trying to block known commands and known bad behavior, but they fail whenever there's a command that's encoded in a different way or a behavior that's slightly different than the one that's set up in the product. Thus, ours is the only one that can also block the unknown malicious techniques. We have a patent pending for our work, submitted for priority, and a non-provisional submitted in January of 2025. Our product enables a customer to easily justify their return on investment by showing which attacks your existing products miss. The average large company has about 50 security products. We don't want to just be the 51st one. We want to provide some more additional value. Currently, our solution takes about 20 minutes to onboard per customer. In the next few months, we'll be working to reduce this down to 2 minutes. We expect to, by the end of this year, have acquired about 100 customers, most of them through our MSSPs, which keeps our team lean and scalable. And there's a clear opportunity to scale. By the end of year 5, we expect we'll have about 10,000 customers paying about $50K each. They'll pay per instance hour of the equipment to be protected. That's a billing model that's in line with other cloud SaaS subscription services. Other products fail to detect threats that differ from the known bad. We solve this $10 trillion problem. Thank you.
All right, that was Iguana Cyber. Let's invite the founder to the stage.
Hi, I'm Parker.
Hey, Parker, how are you?
Doing well.
Thanks for joining us today. I like your Iguana sign there. That's really cool. Props on the branding.
Shirt also.
Oh, we're in the Iguana Hawaiian shirt. That's pretty baller. I think Robbie has the same shirt. Okay, so first of all, where in North Carolina are you located?
I'm based out of Charlotte.
Oh, okay, good. We appreciate you taking time to submit the video. Tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah. So when I was at MITRE, I helped develop the Defend framework, which is now a standard in the industry. The attack framework has been out for almost a decade now, and MITRE realized the need for a defensive framework to be able to identify what defenses can counteract which attacks. And they had me write all the complicated technique articles, which was about half of them in total, and work on the matching process between defend and attack. I also, while I was at MITRE, worked on the CWE Top 25 list on the top 25 software weaknesses in the industry. And our product covers 4 out of the top 5 of those software weaknesses, and which other products have completely failed to even have partial coverage on. I also worked as a contractor for USASOC out in Fort Bragg. I've been in for another public sector contractor doing some work that I can't talk about. And then I've also gone on my own as a independent contractor, mostly doing pen testing and improving the security of companies. And when I looked at how I could get past all the defenses that are already in place and looked if I could create something of my own that stood up to the hackers like me that were able to get into their companies. And then that's how Iguana Cyber started.
Very cool. Awesome. I'm sure our judges have lots of questions for you. I can see Jen is chomping at the bit, so I'll let her go first. Jump in there, Jen.
Sure. Nice to see you again, Parker. So I think I saw the ask up front real briefly. Is it a $750K raise right now? Tell me what's going on with the fundraising.
Yes, we just closed another $75K last week, so that brings us to about 200 in total. We're raising $750K on a 10% discount safe. It really picked up momentum about 2 weeks ago.
Awesome. Thank you.
Gotcha. Jan?
So are you, I couldn't quite get what you were saying about what your solution, what Iguana Cyber will do in relation to all the other security solutions that companies already have. Are you replacing them? Are you a supplement? Are you replacing half of them? What's your vision of how that's going to work?
Yeah, that's a good question. I started sharing my screen. Can you enable the screen share?
Can't hear you, Becca. Can you paint a picture with your words, Parker?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could also jump back to the video, but yeah, I'll answer that in. So many other products are currently trying to solve the problem of server-based exploit detection and response and we're going to be able to replace all of those products. There's also the complementary issue of being able to analyze the threats that come into your company as alerts are generated. And we're complementary with those type of products. Those are called SIEM, Security Information and Event Monitor. We're not trying to replace those. There's already a good way to be able to triage alerts and send them to other people in your company. However, we'll be making those products even more valuable by being able to provide high quality threat intelligence. Right now, over 90% of the time of SOC analysts, those are the ones using the SIEM, is spent sorting through false positives. And over half of the alerts in the average company don't even get looked at. So an attacker can just get through based on the knowledge that they're going to have so much to look at on the back end that they're not even able to effectively filter out what's a false positive or not. So
let me restate it to kind of make sure that I can kind of like, I understand. So most solutions, like they have a database of things that have already happened in the past. And they look for this. They have a pattern. You're more, so that's like passive or a horse got out of the barn. They figured out how, and now they know how to keep the horse in the barn. And you're basically detecting intrusions earlier by looking at the earlier signals and then actively trying to figure out, okay, something's going on I've never seen before. Let me now act against that. Is that a fair characterization?
So we're able to block exploits after they've happened, after any other products that you have installed have failed. It works in concert.
So you're a last line of defense kind of thing?
So yes, we're basically the last line of defense. If you remember that diagram we had in our video, we sit in front of both the existing backend web server and another one we set up. We don't rely on saying we haven't seen this before, as all the other products that are now moving into AI-based detections are starting to do. We rely on saying that this Windows server and this Windows server that's running IIS and this other Linux server don't agree on what's sent back from when they should be sending back the exact same thing. And so if there's not a 100% match, then we can say, hey, something's going on here and block it. AI is now being used by attackers to rewrite exploits thousands of times per second until they get one that just goes through. So in fact, a study last summer from Accenture said that 4 out of 5 bank cybersecurity executives show that the advantage for AI is with the attackers rather than their own defenders. And that was even before we started having no-code attackers in the fall of last year. One of them was able to use Claude Code, who had no coding experience before, to ransom 17 different companies and then automatically analyze the files that were exfiltrated to determine an appropriate ransom value for each of those companies. So I'd say if the study were redone today, that over 9 out of 10 would say that AI is overwhelmingly in favor of the attackers.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I believe that.
Robbie, did you have a question?
Yeah. So let's look at the how you're going to pay for this, the revenue side of things. So you had one beta, and you said you had one customer, paying customer. Is that correct?
We have 2 beta testers. Yeah, we're not charging any of our customers until we're planning to start at the beginning of May.
Okay, so the beta customers haven't converted yet.
No, we plan to get some more feedback first before we start charging. We also have 3 other beta testers on the list that we're waiting to schedule an appointment with them.
So how do you find your customers?
So I got my first 2 from a professional group that I led while I was in DC, and that's continued remotely since then. That's also how I got one of my investors as well.
Cool.
We have time for one more quick question.
I also had given a presentation at some local venues and cybersecurity conferences, and that's helped get the others interested.
Cool. Thank you. So if one quick one, if you close on this full safe, who's your first hire going to be?
Yeah, good question. Our first hire is going to be a COO. I already have someone in mind who I've worked with before. He's expressed interest in investing as well. And he's scaled his own business to $10 million in ARR in the past. And so I think he'd be a great hire to take on our business side while I'm able to focus on the product.
Cool.
Okay, thanks.
Awesome, Parker. Well, thanks for first of all, thanks for putting yourself out there and jumping into the contest. It's always a little scary as a tech founder to put yourself out there and be on
Oh, no,
camera.
I'm used to this.
Okay, so you're old hat, but we still appreciate it. And no matter the outcome, we wish you the best of luck with Iguana Cyber. I think we can all agree that having a more secure world is a good thing. So we appreciate what you're doing there as well.
All right. Thank you, Scott.
All right,
Take care.
Bye. Thanks.
Okay, thanks for Parker for that Iguana Cyber. Up next, we have the pitch video from HAM.
You know how AI tools like ChatGPT or Claude can help developers write code? Well, it makes developers more productive, but it's costing enterprise businesses a lot. Hi, I'm Lou Croma, founder of HAM. We make coding agents cheaper and smarter for engineering teams who use them every day by cutting token usage by 50%. Imagine you're a player on Georgia Tech's basketball team. You're in the Final Four about to play Duke, and your coach tells you to watch every team's film this season just to figure out which clips are relevant for tomorrow's game. You know the answer by the end, but you had to watch every single game of the season for every team for one game tomorrow. That's what AI coding agents do. Before every task, they scan your entire project to find what's relevant. They usually get it right, but the scanning burns money every time. Across large teams, that's thousands of dollars a month just in the cost of figuring out where to look. Our customers are engineering leaders, CTOs who are already using AI coding agents and watching the bills climb. We reach them where they already live. Open source communities, GitHub, Discord. Developers find our open source Claude skill, use it, hit the ceiling, and want to upgrade. It's like a player who gets 10 minutes off the bench, and once the coach sees what they can do, they're in the starting lineup. Now, we're pre-revenue, but here's where we stand. The free version is live as a Claude skill on GitHub and in developers' hands. I've done direct research with engineers at companies like Facebook, YouTube, students at Wharton, and they've confirmed the pain and validated the business case. Through that research, I've already found and fixed real product bugs. HAM Pro is in active development. The roster is set, the plays are drawn, and we're ready for tip-off. I've built AI infra at Twitter, run product strategy at health insurance companies, and I have a master's in computer science and AI from Georgia Tech. I've built on the court and in the front office. I know what it costs to run these systems at scale, and I know what teams need to pay for it. I also build in public, which means I came into this with the audience already in the stands. In the next 90 days, I'll be hosting offline community developer events, iterating on HAM Pro, and landing our first paying customers. If you're a developer bleeding money on AI tools or an investor who sees where the game is heading, let's connect. Thanks everybody for listening. You could go hard or you could go ham. Peace.
All right. Now we get to decide, are we going to go hard or go ham? Let's get the founder up here.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, Lou, how are you?
Going all right. How's
Awesome.
everybody doing on the call?
Good. We're super pumped. I need to calm my heart rate after your video.
Yeah, a great video. Very, very exciting.
Awesome. Who wants to kick it off with a question for Lou?
I'm happy to. So tell me again, I don't think I understand what your product is, to be completely honest. So can you just give me a simple rundown of what it is, the problem it solves, et cetera?
Right. So, it's an infrastructure tool. So right now, when a developer is writing code, when they're working with the coding agent and they're typing, hey, do this for me. The coding agent looks at the entire code base and it says, all right, based on everything I'm seeing, we're going to pass this to the API, and that costs a lot of money. So that's equivalent to reading the entire dictionary to write a sentence.
Gotcha.
Now, a lot of developers don't understand what's happening, and the CFO and the engineering leader is looking at their balance sheet saying, hey, we're more productive, but the API cost is expensive. Why is it expensive? Our solution, instead of looking at the entire code base, the coding agent now just looks at what's important and then passes that on to the API, reducing their token usage over time.
Right. It's like the old days of databases that you had to parse the whole thing instead of just certain.
Right.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. That's helpful.
To add one more question onto that, how does it know what's important? who decides, or how does it decide what's important?
So inside of the code base, whenever developers are working with agents, there's this file that they use called a memory file. Claude agents use a file called claude.md. You set the rules that your coding agent uses in that file, right? These files at the moment are very large. They're very large files. What we do is we shrink the file and we put smaller Claude files in subdirectories. So now instead of your agent saying, "Oh, let me look at this entire file to figure out," it just goes to a subdirectory, reads a smaller subset of rules that are specific to the subdirectory. Yeah, that's how it works.
Okay, thanks. That was helpful.
Hey, Lou. Great presentation. So much energy. So you mentioned that you're selling to CTOs, engineering leaders, and CFOs. I know that you're probably tapping in closely with the developer community. How are you planning to move from the developers up to the decision makers who are going to sign the contracts with you?
That is a really good question. So right now, if I'm being honest, I'm only really working with engineers in my network because that's who I can get access to right now.
Mhm.
And as I'm building the team, what I'm thinking about is a few things. I need to bring somebody on my team that is a senior developer relations engineer. And then the investors that I look to work with, they need to be investors with enterprise experience. Yeah, that's how I'm thinking about it. Like, I can't go directly to an engineering leader right now and say, "Hey, could you do this for me?" I need people that have influence.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jan, Robbie, any other questions for Lou?
Yeah, you mentioned a raise. I didn't see anything in or hear anything in your pitch about a raise. What are you raising, and where are you with that?
So right now I didn't mention it in this pitch, but I'm looking to raise around a 200K pre-seed, be a safe note. I've raised just 10K from just a friend of mine who leads the deal team at a fund. And I've been, just really focusing in on product right now because I can get to market without raising a lot of cash. I just want to be able to support small teams before raising more than I need at the moment. And I'm confident that I can get the product to where it needs to with the cash that I have now.
That's a good plan, not to waste time on raising money until you are really ready.
Right.
Really ready. So you've got beta users right now. The goal is to entice them with what they can do for free and then get them to become paying customers.
Yeah. So it's a free open source project right now. Well, I have a free open source version at the moment.
Got it. Uh-huh.
Just, having a couple of folks use it. But I have a pro tier that has a dashboard where you can actually see the token usage. You can look at, and it's also model agnostic. So it not only just works with Claude, but it also works with Codex. And it also works with Google's Gemini. So in the dashboard, you can see cost across all models, because what I've learned is that developers, their code bases are messy. So they're using different models. From company to company, things are different. So yeah, our pro version is a lot prettier, it's a lot cleaner. It's on the dashboard. You can see more. You can see what engineer is costing you the most money using certain models. Yeah.
And you said the pro version is currently in development. What's the timeline look like?
Oh, I mean, it's live now. I have
Okay.
when I'm doing my customer interviews, the pro version is what I have in front of developers and what they're actually using and testing on. Yeah.
So you're getting a lot of good feedback.
Yeah, I'm getting a lot of feedback, and I'm learning that the engineers don't know how these coding agents work unless you're at like the best company. They're just using it. They're more protective. Ask them, is this something that your teams are doing internally? Is this something that you know about? And they're like, no, I have no idea how this works.
Yeah, they're just busy learning how to do great prompts.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what are you thinking about in terms of how are you going to charge for this? Is it a seat license? Is it a usage?
Yeah.
Or have you figured that out yet? Or is that part of your testing?
This is something that I have been thinking about, right? So now a lot of my competitors, are using usage-based API-related calls, because that is what BC's like, right? Recurring API revenue or usage fees, which I think is like great. However, because they're doing it like that, they're not really providing the best solution. At the moment, I'm doing per repo pricing. So their project tends to sit on a remote repository in GitHub. So we just charge them per repo, and then every team member they add, we increase. We just it's per seat pricing from then on. But that's just because that model works for me right now and how I'm managing things. I think at the enterprise level, we're going to have to figure something else out.
Yeah. Well, to be perfectly frank, what is a repo?
A repository is where your code base lives.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Get up
Be
there.
careful of that jargon, because we investors don't. You know so much about what you're talking about, and as investors, we know a tiny bit about a lot, but we aren't.
I try to use a lot of basketball references.
That was helpful.
This is really technical. I'm not quite sure who's going to be seeing this, so let me try my best to like connect it to analogies that are a little bit more clear.
Yep. Yeah. Much appreciated.
Yeah.
But yeah, be careful about using things like repo. Words like repo.
Cool.
Any last questions for Lou?
Oh, good.
Well, good.
All right. Thanks, Lou. We really appreciate it.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Appreciate you putting yourself out there, doing the video and joining our contest. And where are you based out of?
I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Awesome. But still a Georgia Tech fan, I'm going to guess.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Die hard. All right.
Oh,
that's
too bad.
All right. Okay. Awesome. Well, we really appreciate you coming on, and I'm building in the AI space, and you had me at 50% off tokens. So
Oh, yeah.
those token bills roll in. I'm like, holy cow, what are you guys doing?
All right.
Awesome. All right. Good luck with it. Thanks.
Thanks so much.
Okay. Let's start with feedback that you have for the pitches, just so that other founders can kind of like hear how you guys think about pitches and what every founder can do to improve their pitches. Jen, you want to start?
Sure. So I'll kick off with Iguana Cyber. This one is a complicated thing. So you kind of have to walk us through very slowly, which I think Parker had good pacing, but I think there was a lot crammed in there in a short amount of time. And especially on the slides too, there were so many words. I was not sure which ones I was supposed to pay attention to. And he kind of flew through them pretty quickly. So I'm like feverishly trying to take notes. Especially when you're presenting, I feel like simpler is better, and just focus on really boiling it down to the key points that you want folks to walk away with. So that one was a little bit harder for me to follow, but we kind of got into it in the Q&A.
Yeah, I think, it's hard for tech founders not to do a lot of jargon, as Jan said. And so, the slides have jargon, and then they talk jargon. And so sometimes you have a hard time following, plus particularly like a word like repo, which has so many meanings. And so anyway, so I think that's, and they don't realize that, and they're trying to. So I think the simple slide and the lack of not try to use English as much as possible. Not that jargon is in English, but spell it out. Yeah, because they're both. They're both a little bit complicated. I think Iguana is really complicated.
Yeah.
Yeah. As I said, I appreciated the basketball analogy.
It was confusing.
I just confusing.
It's tricky.
Well, it helped me. I
thought it was fun, but I was like, okay, what's he doing?
I appreciate it. I think that that clarity question, I think, just keeps coming up, is just making sure that since you as the founder are so immersed in this space, you know so much about it, and you're so used to talking to other people who are also in your space, that figuring out the language to use with the uninitiated is definitely something to work on.
It's the mom test, right? Like you've got to get it past, maybe not your mom, because you might talk to her a lot, but someone else's mom.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Your neighbor, the mailman.
Exactly.
Yep.
I will say
Awesome.
with Lou's, that was a really great example of there were some very key points that he hit that I made quick notes of, and he didn't even use slides. So I thought that was helpful. Like, he very specifically mentioned who he was selling to. He had his value statement up front. It almost like there was slides that he was talking through, but it was just his charismatic face. So that was really
I
nice.
think he was better. He was better at articulating, and that's so, and what he's doing is a little simple, not, but it's easy, but it's simpler to understand. And it's a huge problem.
Yep.
Yeah. Got it. So I think the feedback from founders is don't be too reliant on slides. The other thing I've learned as a founder when I pitch is less words is better.
Oh my God, yes.
If you're talking and people are looking at slides that have words, it's hard for a human to process two streams of information. And you kind of like have to pick, right? So we're kind of, we have to like pick one of those two channels. And a lot of times if you're reading the slides, you're not listening. And if you're listening, you're not reading the slides. So also like always be ready to pitch without your slides. I kind of said, paint a picture of your words. And as a founder, you kind of need to be able to work and, if you have the slides, great. If not, you need to just be able to roll without them. So something to work on for folks out there that pitch. This is where, the old elevator pitch, so get on an elevator in your mind, run through the pitch. Like, what would you do if someone came on and it was like Mark Cuban or something and you wanted to pitch them right then?
Yeah.
How would you jump in on that? Awesome. So that's really good tidbit for other founders out there that watch this. Now it is time for us to render a judgment. Is everyone ready for that? Awesome. Okay. This time I'll start with Jan. Jan, what are you thinking? So we've got Iguana Cyber up against HAM.
I'm going to go with HAM because I think his path to market is more straightforward. And I think he has a better handle on how to go from where he is to where he needs to be. Both of them need to think through the question of how are they going to fill out their teams, because they're both solopreneurs.
Yep. Gotcha. Okay. Hardy, you want to go next? Robbie? Sorry.
Yeah, no, I agree on HAM. And I think he was easy for him to answer our questions. He was very clear. He's thought through. I don't need to go out there and spend my time raising money when I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to do. So he's got a lot of good instincts, as a founder. So I think he has much more potential.
And Jen, are you gonna be the dissenting vote, or what's going to happen here?
I'm going with the group. I also want to vote for HAM. I feel like he's thought through very strategically how he wants to grow the business. And he also seems really honest about the roadblocks and the speed bumps that he's going to face along the way. And he's knowledgeable of them, but still really optimistic that he's going to be able to achieve this vision.
Yeah. And I think that's the second tidbit for other founders watching this. We need to understand your solution. And then in a first pitch, what problem are you solving and how are you going to go to market? Those are the two pretty big things to kind of get across. From there, we can then paint a picture for, how's the team going to be structured and all that. But those are so foundational in an early stage like this. Those are kind of the two riskiest things. From there, we kind of, as an investor, you kind of really need to understand those before you really go much further or anything else. Awesome. Well, congrats to HAM, and then thanks to Cyber Iguana for competing again. These things are always very tough to pick from these two companies, and we've tried to put companies that are relatively close together on their cycle of where they are in growing their life cycle. So congrats to HAM, and thanks to Iguana for joining us.